Hello, my friends. Hi. How you doing? Try to pull it up on my phone here to see if anybody comments along the way as we do our live stream and have a really cool conversation this morning with my friend Mahnaz. And I'm going to give her a proper intro in a second here. But let's see. I wish this always popped up. Newest activity. Here we go. Perfect. Now, if you do want to comment, I'll try to keep my eyes on the comments in YouTube itself. But if you it'll ask you to Facebook will ask you permission to show comments in StreamYard. So if you do that, they will show up right in front of me. And of course, wherever this goes, Mahnaz, if you're watching this from within the Women's Small Business and Leadership Network, Mahnaz is a member of our group. So if you're seeing this either live and we miss your question, or if you post a question afterwards, Mahnaz, would you be so kind to chime in and respond to comments afterwards?
Do tag me though, because otherwise I might not see it.
Perfect. So without further ado, let me give, for those of you who don't know Mahnaz has been in the group for a while, or if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't know what I'm talking about, I run a group called the Women's Small Business and Leadership Network. It's on a Facebook group. You're welcome to join us. And Mahnaz has been a member for a while, and she hails from Scotland, which I always think is completely awesome. Just, I don't know if you can. I just love Mahnaz. So let me read a little bit about her in case you don't know her as well as I do. So Mahnaz is a business mentor who specializes in empowering moms whose business dreams are buried under family needs. By using aligned strategies and building with boundaries, Mahnaz guides her clients as they step into their role as CEO without feeling guilty about spending time away from their families. With a degree in mathematics and 20 years of experience as an analyst, Mahnaz empowers her clients to work in harmony, respect their time and energy so they can carve out time for them, their life, their family, and their business. And so, Mahnaz, thank you so much for speaking with us and joining us here today.
Thank you for having me, Danny. This is a wonderful conversation. Always great to connect with you.
In regards to your bio, when I read it, I didn't realize, I don't know if I had somehow missed it, but I didn't realize you had the math, maybe the full extent of your mathematics and analyst background, which I find fascinating. And also it makes sense why a lot of the conversations that we've had, because I know we've had you on in the past, it makes sense that because you always come at things in such a beautiful, logical way. And I always respect you for that, because a lot of entrepreneurs that I know, our brain's going to go, it's all over the place. So when we find people, I mean, you have that complete creative side too, but finding those people that maybe have more of that experience and that linear fashion. So building with boundaries and having that structure, it all clicks in my head. I'm like, this makes complete sense.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Danny, for that feedback. That's so good to hear. Yes, I think it takes time, doesn't it, to work out how your past, your skills, your experience, and all the things you've done get you to where you are. And yeah, definitely build with boundaries has been something that when it came together, it just felt like all the pieces fitted together. So I feel a bit like that from the inside, because I have got that kind of problem solving, logical side of me has always been there. And that wasn't really a surprise that I did opt for maths at university, not because I really wanted to do maths always, it was because that was my strongest skill. And it kind of just led me down that route without knowing what I wanted to do with it. So a squiggly line of lots of things that have gone on during that time. But, at the end now, I feel like the build with boundaries, there's definitely structure and logic to that as well.
It's something that we need as entrepreneurs, which is why we're having this conversation. So in terms of boundaries, maybe we can even just start the conversation by a question that you've asked me before is what do boundaries mean to you? What does that mean?
So I see boundaries as being almost like, if you think about building your business as in a physical building, the first thing you want to do is set the foundations. Now, those boundaries are like setting the foundation, so creating this base for what will then withstand the weight of everything else that you will be building on top. So it's almost like having this first layer that needs to be there. And I know sometimes we go further in an entrepreneurial journey and then we realize we need to change those boundaries, or they're not working and they need to be realigned, or like new ones need to be introduced, and that's fine. But again, it's about like going back to that really important part, which is the foundation, and solidifying it, giving it so much power so that it can then carry the weight of what will be built on next. So I hope you like my analogy.
I really do. And for a number of reasons in my own, and with my own entrepreneurial journey, and not honoring those foundationals and that foundation in place, and knowing and finding out what happens when they aren't in place, when you're going, whether, and I'm talking about the basic needs of the human body, not even just like the fundamentals of a business, but proper sleep, proper food,
Yeah.
and all the things that get sacrificed in relationships, time with family, all the things that tend to get sacrificed when we're in that crazed, especially in those, actually any stage of business, but just in those crazed startup years, when you're trying to, and everything seems like an emergency, because when we put things to the side, like, oh, I'll eat later, or I'll do it later, in terms of like the fundamental things that we actually need to, be good at our business.
Mm-hmm.
With those things, those boundaries, like would that be considered, like, would like not eating lunch be considered breaking a boundary, or saying yes to a client that maybe not the right fit? Are those would be considered boundary breakers?
Absolutely. I think boundaries are not only about when you're building a business, like you are at the core of your business. So for me, I like to have that holistic view of your business, because your business is you, especially when there is only one person. It needs to be, we do need to create that harmony between our life and our business. So the business should be part of our life, but it shouldn't be taking over. And the reason and the way that we can make sure that it doesn't take over is if we have those boundaries in place. So we know when work time is, and when we know where there's self-care, where there's structure to the day, where we have time to ourselves, we have time to spend with our family, we have time for our children, we have time to do the things that are important to us. So you mentioned the word sacrifice. Absolutely, we do not want to be compromising on the things that are important to us, because they are part of our life. And yeah, by putting ourselves first, even though it sometimes feels slightly illogical, especially as a mum, that you put yourself first, because we're not taught that. But actually, when we do put ourselves first, we are honoring ourselves, and therefore we are actually able to care about everybody else, including our clients, including our children, including our home, family life, friends, whoever is in our world. We're able to maintain those relationships and actually help those people to a much greater scale than we would if we didn't look after ourselves. And that is a bit of you're laughing now, I know, like it takes us time to figure this out, doesn't it? Because we all go through phases where we're not necessarily doing the best for ourselves.
I'm laughing and nodding along, and one of the reasons why I was so excited to speak with you and get this out there as a reminder is that I did not have this quite in place before I had my son. And then I had my son, and he was 10 pounds. I had him by C-section, and yet I'm still thinking I'm Wonder Woman and can do everything. And I'm laughing for not great reasons, because in terms of, not being there for people, I remember at one point in time, like I was just so worn down. I was on the ground. I was just so sick and so exhausted. I was on the ground, and I have this infant to take care of. And that is, in terms of not having, not having that honored earn in place and not being there for someone, like I have this infant to take care of, yet I am so weak and so depleted and so exhausted that I can't, that I can't. And there was so many lessons that came from that. And it's one of the reasons I'm passionate about talking about this, is to hopefully, like, Mahnaz, you look back to like us maybe in like our early 20s, like would we have taken the advice of us now? Maybe not, but I would hope that we would a little bit. So we keep trying. So yes, I wish I had understood. I wish I had the understanding of that. No, I'm not Wonder Woman. She's a fictional character. You can't do everything. You're not Superman. And two, also one of the tools in place so that your life, if you are, especially for the entrepreneurs out there who have less of a structured way of thinking, and what kind of tools can we put in place so that your life doesn't just bleed all over into everything, where you're working on your business and you're feeling guilty that you're not with your family, you're working with your family, you're playing with your kids or something like that, and you feel like you're neglecting your business. What kind of things do you do to keep, I call that the cycle of suck, because you go through your entire life of your entire day just feeling guilty because you're not someplace else, which is awful. And so what kinds of tools do you recommend that help get people out of that if they feel like they're in that cycle?
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to understand is where we are able to make choices and make good choices. So, it's completely in our control to choose how we spend our day. And even though all these things are asking for us our time, and they want to be prioritized, whether that's people or tasks or activities or things, chores, anything, all these things might be shouting, but we have to be the one who's like putting our CEO hat on in terms of being a business owner and really prioritizing things. So working out and deciphering, like, there's a time for everything. So first and foremost is like creating structure to your day, because if we have pockets of time that we dedicate to different areas and different parts, then we can purely be dedicating that time to the thing that we have already said, rather than feeling overloaded and trying to do everything but not doing anything very well. So I think that is definitely the first thing to look at. And what I do with my clients and the work that I do in Build with Boundaries is the 3 key pillars that I work with. So they're called my 3 Ps, and it's permission, priorities, and productivity. So I feel that all 3 of these like heavily relate to each other, and they actually all affect each other, because first we have to have given ourselves permission to have, for example, the right boundaries. We just talked about boundaries, and we need to have permission for a lot of things. And then secondly, we need to know, out of all the things that we want to give our time to, what are the priorities and how do we prioritize those? Because if firstly we haven't given permission to have them as a priority, they're never going to make it on the list. Once we have it in the priority, we need to understand what the focus is for that and how important it is. And then thirdly, when you are like working on it, there's going to be a lot of task and time efficiency that you can create there, because we can definitely work on and on and on, but it does not necessarily mean that we're being productive, not productive with our time, and maybe not even productive on the right things, which is a bigger issue as well, of like trying to focus on the thing that isn't actually helpful in the first place.
Oh my gosh, that urgent versus importance in such I'm sure it's a trap for all human beings when you think, but especially as entrepreneurs, when you have something that that is the priority for your business in terms of revenue and growth. However, you have emails flooding in, whether it's a client or something like that, in terms of like everything feels so urgent, like you have to do it right away and get back to people immediately, especially with all the ways that people can communicate with us now, with messenger and text and phone, and it's just like 1,000 ways of people. I'm overwhelmed by the way how many ways people can communicate with me. But everything, and of course, with all those alerts and all that sounds, like, okay, that all seems like urgent. But is it really important to grow your business at that point in time?
Yeah. It's a hard one because I think, especially now, everybody's very much aware of how much focus they need to give on the online aspect of your business, because you have to have that online element. But that also makes it tricky because then, just like you said, there are so many ways of contacting someone. So therefore, if you've got, pinging notifications going on everywhere, whether that's social media or an email, it just loses, it just stops what we're doing. We stop what we're doing and our focus and concentration is zapped right away. And, that kind of modern technology, we need to use it as a tool and use it to our advantage, but not let it control us, and understanding where it might be taking over a little bit and creating a boundary for that,
I read somewhere, and feel free anybody to double check on this, but when we actually, I know the big thing back in the day used to be like, like multitasking, which has now been renamed task switching, which very, very few people in the world can actually do. But I've heard that when you actually, if you're working on one thing, you get distracted, you have a 30% loss of productivity when you go back and you have to go, when you're bouncing in between things. And that would be happening through your entire day. So
depending on which studies you look at, it can be like even up to 50-60%, which is crazy. So it really is so important. Like, we don't realize how much of our time is getting drained because it just forms part of what we do. But because we can't see, how things could be better, because you're almost on the inside, aren't you? You're just doing the thing. But what if that could be quicker? There are reasons why, when people work less, they can actually achieve more. And, there is science behind that, because there's a whole lot. That would be another talk for another day.
That's actually, oh gosh, I wish I remembered the name of the author. That's actually the name of one of my favorite books, is Do Less, Achieve More. And it tackles a whole bunch of different things in that book, but it's so true. And there's so many new technological tools now out too. And I've been looking at some of them in terms of, because I know time blocking is something that's just, very, common in conversation. And there are new tools coming out now. I'm testing one of them where it's a little bit, it helps people time block a little bit better by actually prompting, okay, how long is this going to take, and put it in my calendar for maybe people whose brains don't work that way naturally, like mine. And some of these programs are using AI to help you actually structure your day. And you can actually tell, like, even like with AI or Chat GPT or something like that, if you plunk in and say like, these are all the things I need to get done in my day, can you please create a schedule? You can just say like using the Pomodoro method, it will give you a schedule for your day.
Yeah, that's true. This is the thing that, we have got so much technology at our fingertips, but, like you said, using it to our advantage rather than getting drowned in it is the first thing. Always look at what you need rather than just going with the flow just because everybody else is. And if you have a real purpose and reason for using it, then you will always find some sort of value out of it too, because you've set that intention for why you're needing to try it. But yeah, that's a great way to look at AI technology, because we can pop any question we like there, and what's the worst it can do? It's just going to give us a suggestion. It's up to us to then decide whether or not that is appropriate or if it makes sense.
I like how you talked about in terms of being really focused, and I think with boundaries, one of the things I wanted to mention is we talk about boundaries, but how do boundaries play with in intent in terms of actually knowing where we're going. So I guess to understand why why we have these boundaries. Do you ever speak with that in terms of your clients or your own your own like, why do we have these boundaries? Because what are we trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think we have to have a purpose behind everything. So if we set a boundary, it's not going to be personal until we understand the reason why, just like everything else. Or if our children ask us a question, they always say why, that is their number one question. So, taking that on board, we have this human instinct to understand things. And if we can understand it, it just helps us embed those things easier because we understand it. Therefore, there is some significance. There's a reason. It makes sense, and if it sits with us right, then it means that would work for us. That feels like it's something we would want to do, and if we want to do it, there's that desire, and that really makes a difference with actually making it happen. So like going from thinking about doing it to actually doing it. And I think there's a little gap there as well where people can find quite tricky because they know all the things that they need to do, right? If they want to lose weight and they have a program, like they know they need to follow that. It's not difficult to know, it's difficult to do what you know. And do it like so consistently that it becomes a habit. And that is difficult because we're human beings. We are naturally gravitate towards the habits we already have, so changing them can be difficult. And that's something that I do help with, because that is something that we often need a lot of support and accountability and real guidance, because sometimes we just can't see what it is that we can change. We're sort of stuck inside there and not getting that perspective, a fresh perspective from the outside.
It's so true. And actually, kind of on the heels of that, you have something in terms of a freebie that I always ask in terms of, and you have the 3 sneaky traps business owners fall into. And go ahead, speak to that.
I have a new one, Danny, I'd like to share.
You do?
So,
yeah, go for it.
I have a free masterclass that's called Closing the Gap Between What You Want to Do and What Gets Done. So if you are thinking that, you have too many things on your list, you're not quite sure, all this stuff that you want to do, but it doesn't always get ticked off, there's a bit of space here for really getting so much value out of this masterclass. It's completely free. Just go to buildwithboundaries.com and you can get instant access to it. And I go through in this masterclass all the steps that you can take, and you're guided to work through this. And then you have some homework to take away as well, which is very exciting, because then that learning becomes so much more effective, and we can take away and look at our own business and how we can apply it. So you will definitely, if that's something you struggle with and just have too many things to do, that to-do list never ends. It just feels like it's endless. You're finding it difficult to prioritize. You don't know where your time goes. All these things, you will get so much help from this masterclass.
Oh, wonderful. And Fun StreamYard does banners. So we have buildwithboundaries.com. So you can find out all about Mahnaz's upcoming masterclass. And Mahnaz, is there anything else that I have missed before we wrap up today? And I thank you for your time and for being here.
No, it's been wonderful to have a conversation with you. And thank you so much for having me, Danny.
Great. And thank you, everyone. I'm Danny Whitestone, Small Business Mentor. And if you see us on YouTube, you can like and subscribe, and you can find me at DannyWhitestone.com. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Mahnaz, thank you for being here. And we'll make sure that we drop your link to that in the comments of where all this is streamed, so that people can get on that masterclass. That sounds awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.